I have decided that I'm going to do a video in which I don't talk as much as I usually do, and this is something special because I have finished pretty much everything on the left page here. And what I'm going to be doing is that I will be erasing the part of the coloring that is outside of the line work. I thought it would be something interesting to look at, for certain people at least. And the reason why I said I may not be talking as much is because, first of all, perhaps it would even be preferable for some people to only hear the noises of my pen sliding on the tablet, or technically the screen of my iPad, as opposed to listening to my voice. And the other thing is because my voice don't feel so great. Of course, that also comes with the problem of one having to ask my audience to look at the screen, which is not what I usually have in mind when I record most of my videos. The other problem is that the sound of the pen may be a little too quiet. I'm also trying my best to reduce any other annoying noises there might be. This reminds me of one of the first reasons why I decided to start doing things like this. Because when I worked on my drawings, my brain is mostly engaged in the visual aspect of things. And I felt like the part of my brain that handled sound or audio could be better devoted to other things. One of the other things that I did for that purpose was listening to audiobooks. At this point, I am fairly sure that the total number of words of literature that I consumed by the form of audiobook had exceeded the number of words I consumed by reading. Of course, I also listen to other things. I don't know why I feel embarrassed to admit it, but the other thing that I listen to would be ASMR videos. If you don't know what that is, it's essentially a video which is recorded with the specific purpose of triggering a physiological response whose scientific acronym is ASMR. It's generally a pleasant sensation. And so people would record videos and broadcast it to viewers who are looking for that sensation. I guess one of the reasons why it might be embarrassing to say or to talk about it is because the similarity that exists between this kind of product, so to speak, and drugs, or in other cases, pornography. There has been many comparisons made between ASMR videos and pornography. I'm not sure if I entirely agree that ASMR videos are just a different form of porn, because certain completely inorganic things, such as the sound of metal scratching concrete, could also elicit that response. The other reason that may be the source of my embarrassment in bringing that up is the notable similarity between what I am trying to do and what I am talking about. However, I think there is still a slight difference between a video like this, in which a nominal artist is working on something while the viewer is encouraged to do the same. You may or may not fit my assumption about my audience, but these videos were made with the assumption that the viewer is also an artist and someone who would, at the same time of watching these videos, be working on their own projects. Of course, it doesn't have to be that. You could also be doing other things. That is up to you. The reason why I chose to do this particular task for this particular video is because unlike what I usually do in my videos, there is a lot less creative decisions to be made. When I edit my usual videos, a lot of the time is spent in cutting out sections in which there were no dialogue, and I was simply zooming around to look at the whole picture to see whether or not I need to add something here and there. With something like this, however, it's quite obvious what needs to be done. Besides, at least personally, I think it is a rather pleasant thing to witness the process by which something incomplete and rough around the edges is polished. That being said, the thing that I'm doing right now may not be exactly satisfying in the way I promised it to be, because there's still a fair amount of zooming going on, since at the moment I am fixing the edges of these large blocks. So that requires me changing the viewpoint quite frequently, but that is done now. That was another segment of the promised silence. I decided to say something because it's making me feel a little uneasy to be silent for so long. Also, I am afraid that if I stop talking for too long, I will forget to talk entirely. If you were to ask me the question of whether or not I consider this video or the other videos that I am making to be a form of ASMR video, I would like to say no. If it just so happened to fulfill the same purpose, then that is not something within my control. However, as much as possible, I would try to avoid putting myself into the same market space as ASMR videos, because even the best equipped and most skilled competitors in that field are struggling to find attention, since the industry, to be pretentious for a moment, is very competitive and also seems very attractive to new entries. Of course, I don't know what I'm talking about. I am just trying to sound like someone who didn't waste a whole semester learning about economics. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that not only is it relatively easy for people who are new to the ASMR industry to start, it is also very attractive somehow to people who do that kind of things. Because not everything that is easy is something that would attract people to do. For example, it's relatively easy to find a customer service job at a fast food chain. Of course, that's just a fancy way of saying standing behind a counter or delivering plates. But not everybody wants to do that. However, with ASMR video production, it seems like a lot of people are willing to do that. My guess is that it affords them personal attention, so they would feel a little like a celebrity or idol, and also such an idol as to be adored by their community rather than to find themselves in the middle of gossips and slanders, even though that also exists for pretty much anything. The other reason why this particular job, if you like, is attractive to new entries is because it seems relatively easy to do. You don't need very much investment, only several $100s in equipment and maybe software, but not much else. It also seems like it doesn't require any skill, but of course that is not the case. That being said, I feel like the most rational thing that I should be doing is to avoid the competition, because I don't think I am going to succeed. With that said, I suppose I should take some time to think about what exactly is my own brand. It's probably very strange to hear someone talking to their customer in a way about what their business plan is. But I guess now that I have done that, this is also a part of my value proposition. If you don't know what value proposition is, it's basically a term from economics that describes a service provider's promise to their customer. For example, the value proposition of YouTube would be, to anyone with a computer, we provide a near infinite supply of entertainment in the form of videos. The value proposition of a conventional ASMR channel would be, to anyone who knows about ASMR and has the physiology to have the response, we provide trigger stimulus for you to facilitate the response that you want. Those are two rather general examples. More specific example may be an ASMR channel that is dedicated to cosplaying fictional characters, for example. I think I used the word example too many times in that sentence. That being said, when I contemplate what sort of value proposition I can provide, I'm thinking the element of art and artist would be one of them. It reminds me of another thing now that I come to think about value proposition. That is the idea of niche in a competitive environment. I might have said this before, but if you don't remember or didn't hear it, one of my favorite principles in science is the principle of biology known as the competitive exclusion principle. It states that given a single niche, if there are two species that occupy the exact same niche, then in the same environment, one species will drive the other species to extinction over time. For example, if there are two kinds of ants living in the same area and they do the exact same thing, they collect the exact same food source and make their nests in the identical medium, then given enough time, one species of ants will dominate the area, while the other species will go extinct. I noticed a parallel between this principle and something that happens in human commerce. Namely, that it's going to be difficult for a service provider to be working in the same area and offering the same value proposition. There are some disparities, but I think overall it's still rather similar to how it works in nature. Essentially, it would be difficult, especially for a smaller, newer entrance, a smaller, newer entry to a certain industry to compete with everybody else if that new company is providing the same value proposition as someone else. And that is why, even for something innocuous, I don't know if that's the right word to use, but even for something simple like a fast food company or a restaurant chain, it is still rather common to see the company wrangling some sort of special value proposition. For example, they might say, our restaurant is the most environmentally friendly, or our restaurant has the fastest service, or the most economic delivery, or something like that. Because they are trying to avoid direct competition with a more economically powerful competitor who would otherwise have the exact same value proposition. As you can see, those couple $1,000 of tuition wasn't spent in vain. I am also talking way more than I expected to. With everything being said, there is still some difference between how nature works and how human commerce works. For example, even if two companies have very similar value proposition, or have value propositions that are similar to the point of making no difference, there is still the possibility of coexistence. I don't quite understand why, but it's quite common to see something like a fast food chain having stores opening right next to each other. In that case, I'm guessing the reason why it is still possible for this sort of coexistence is that maybe both companies are economically powerful and would not gain anything from aggressive campaigns to outcompete the other. The other reason might be that certain people may have a sort of brand loyalty, as in certain people may choose to purchase the service of one certain company over another for no reason at all, for no objective reason at least. However, that being said, I still struggle to see how it would be possible for a small new entry to outcompete a large existing company. Even though in that case things may not exactly apply in the same way that it does in the world of ASMR video production, since most of these productions are personal. That is, there is only one person principally responsible for the video production, and therefore it's not easy for one person to have the same kind of resource that a large company can have. I am surprised that my work is almost finished. Well, thank you very much for watching thus far. I think that is everything I have to show you. Goodbye.